dedicated to who?
Yigal Ben Simcha.
Yigal Ben Simcha. Oh, you go?
Yeah.
Oi.
Got hit by a car this morning on the way here.
Oi.
Supposedly he's okay.
Okay. A full shlem to Yigal, most definitely. Okay, so it's a halachic topic somewhat related to the parsha. How is it related to the parsha? We're going to see at the end how it all wraps together, but Moshe Rabbeinu is begging the Eibishter in the beginning, he's telling the Yidden about what happened when he supplicated to the Eibishter to allow him to enter Eretz Yisrael, and he tells the Yidden that I told Hashem when I davened, you began to show me Godlecha, your greatness, Yodcha, Chazaka, your strong hand. The Medrash Rabbah says Moshe was referring to the Mon. Moshe was telling the Eibishter, since you showed me the Mon, the miracle of the manna for 40 years falling in the desert, therefore I deserve to come into Eretz Yisrael. That's what the Medrash says. And the obvious question is what? What is the link between Moshe receiving man for 40 years to his merit to go to Eretz Yisrael? And we'll see in the end how it all wraps together in Mitzvah Hashem. So, the title of the discussion is, can one commit a crime, can one do an Aveira for someone else to benefit? And what we refer to here is not someone else's physical benefit, someone else's spiritual benefit. In other words, if you know that somebody is going to violate a huge crime, can you do a small Aveira to forewarn them, to protect them from violating a bigger Aveira? It's called Chatei Kedei Sheyizka Chavercha, to sin so your friend can gain. And it comes up in the Gemara Shabbos, on the 4th page. The Gemara discusses if somebody put dough into an oven on Shabbos. Now, back in the day, when they baked, they would take the dough and they would stick it to the side of the oven. Even today, in some places, yeah, exactly. So they stick it into the side, and all the bread. Some people, classic or fancy bakeries still bake in such a fashion. They all the loaves cleave to the side of the oven, and then there's like a fire in the middle, and all of them bake together. And that's how they used to bake back in the day. Now, if you baked such challah before Shabbos like that, you have to make sure you take it out from the oven before Shabbos. On Shabbos itself, you can't take the bread out. Now, it's not a biblical prohibition, it's already baked. The Chachamim said you shouldn't do it. It's called Redias Hapas, because you would use a fancy tool to scrape the bread from the side to make sure it came right, and none of the bread would stick to the side of the oven. It was an artistic action. And therefore, the Chachamim said we don't want people doing it on Shabbos. The Gemara said it's a Chachmehi ve'eina malach. It's not really a malach, it's just a craft. But that's enough for Chachamim to say that we don't want people getting involved in that for Shabbos. Do it before Shabbos. So here's the issue though. Yankel, your friend Yankel, sticks the dough in on Shabbos. Let's say he forgot it was Shabbos. He puts the dough in, okay? It's going to now, baking on Shabbos is one of the 39 malachas of Shabbos. But it takes time for it to bake. Just putting the dough in the oven, nothing's happened yet. Right now it takes time. Now Yankel's left the house. He puts the dough in the oven and then he left. He forgot that it was Shabbos, now he's gone. You're there. And you know that if you leave that bread in the oven, Yankel will end up desecrating Shabbos, which would entail him bringing a carbon if the Beis HaMikdash stood. It's a serious transgression. Even if it's not deliberate, it's inadvertent, it's b'shoigeg, nonetheless it's a crime, and you could protect him by taking out the bread. The problem is taking out such bread which is cleaving to the side of the oven. We established the Chacham generally forbade such an action. In general, if you would bake your own bread on Friday, you got to take it out of the oven before Shabbos. They don't want people doing this craftsmanship on Shabbos. In this situation, however, if you don't do it, your friend's going to violate Shabbos on a biblical level. So that's the question. Can you take out the bread doing a smaller Aveira to protect your friend from violating a bigger Aveira? Yeah.
there is another potential problem. If nobody takes out the bread, there's going to be a fire.
Your friend is coming back in an hour.
Okay, then
He's coming back to get his bread.
Okay.
Are you taking out the bread before Shabbat? Right?
No,
No,
they're
on
on
Shabbos.
Shabbos. On Shabbos. This is on Shabbos. Your friend put the dough in on Shabbos. He forgot.
that it's Shabbos.
So you're there. So you want to take it out. Now, taking out the bread, this is not in today's oven. This is in the old ovens where the bread cleaves to the side, and taking it out is considered an act of craftsmanship. Because they needed a special tool to make sure that none of the dough would stick to the side of the oven and to scrape it off. The Chum didn't want people doing that on Shabbos. Not Shabbostic. It's not a...
You're committing a Avera.
From the rabbis. The rabbi said, Chachma ve'ena malacha. It's not a malacha, but it's a chachma, it's an artistic act, and therefore the rabbis, it's not Shabbostic. They say, we don't want you doing it. But over here, you want to do it to protect your friend.
Let's say to protect yourself. You did it for and now remind yourself.
Great. So the Gemara discusses that too. The Gemara discusses that as well. And that would be different because you're more responsible for yourself than for your friend. Right. That would be another shir about yourself. But legabe your friend, here's the deal. So the Gemara comments, what? You want to take the bread out for the sake of your friend? How could you sin for someone else to gain? How could you sin for someone else to gain? That's what the Gemara says. In other words, the Gemara says black and white, you can't do a small crime to protect your friend from doing a bigger crime. Even though your friend was inadvertent, he didn't willingly want to break Shabbos, he forgot. And you know that he forgot, because doesn't matter. To save your friend from bigger crime does not justify you to do a small avera. That's what the Gemara says. The problem is there are many other Gemaras in Shas that seem to completely contradict that. And therefore, Tosfos throughout Shas, in many places, has a discussion. Right, on almost each Gemara, which is another piece of the puzzle, you'll find a Tosfos over there, trying to figure out when do we say you should, when do we say you shouldn't. And ultimately, there seems to be 3 or 4 different answers in Tosfos. And the ramifications are huge, and this is what we're going to see and what we're going to discuss for the next couple of minutes. So first, join me in number 2. We're going to get to a heart-wrenching discussion, but before then, join me in number 2. This is Tosfos in Masechta Shabbos. But like I mentioned, Tosfos throughout Shas, on many of the different Gemaras, which are all different pieces of the puzzle, Tosfos comments in numerous places. And he doesn't always say the same thing. It's not always written by the same person. Look at number 2. So Tosfos is going on the Gemara in Shabbos. Do we tell a person you should sin, b'shvil sheyizkech avecha, so your friend should gain? So Tosfos off the bat says, wait a second. There's a Gemara in Eruvin. V'ha da'amar, we say in B'chol Ma'arvin, it's the Perek in Eruvin. Rebbe Yehuda Hanasi had a debate with his father, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. The story is like this. You have produce. So if you're living in Eretz Yisrael, let's assume there's a Beis Hamikdash and everything. So biblically, there's many tithes you have to take. You got to take off the Truma, 1/50th to give to a Kohen, 1/10 to a Meiser, for Meiser, etc. Until you take off the proper tithes, the Truma and the Meisers, what you have in front of you is called Tevel. Untithed produce is biblically prohibited. And if you eat it, it carries death in the hands of heaven. Misa b'dei shamayim. It's very severe. It's very severe. The story is like this. You have a Talmud Chacham, and he tells a fellow who's a simple guy, he says, I have all these figs over here. Go, fill up your basket from the figs that I have, take it home, enjoy. And the simple fellow, we're going to call him the Amma Aretz, because that's how the Gemara, the simple guy, the rabbi says, fill up your basket of figs, he fills it up with figs, he takes it home. All of a sudden, the rabbi, the Talmud Chacham, remembers, wait a second, I didn't take the Truma and the Meiser, anything from those. It's still Tevel, it's untithed. If that poor man, Nebuch, is going to eat it, he's eating something which is biblically prohibited, Tevel, it carries death in the hands of heaven if it's done on purpose. Now, this guy's not doing it on purpose, but still it's a grievous sin. So the Talmud Chacham thinks, okay, I better fix it now. and he thinks, he took 100 figs, so let me separate from what I have over here. Let me take 2, it'll be the truma for that. Let me take 10, it'll be the meiser. Now, here's the issue, though. Usually, in order to take off tithes, all the produce has to be in front of you. It's called min hamukuf. It all has to be in front of you. You can't, if you have 100 figs in a different city, and you have some over here, you really can't take 2 here to be the truma for the stuff over there. It's called taking shaloi min hamukuf. It's not all in front of you. They're not all in the same place. It's a problem to do that. It's halachically an issue. How bad is that issue? It's a debate between Rashi and Tosfos. It's a Rashi in Masechta Gittin and a Tosfos in Masechta Beya. It's really all information is all dispersed. Rashi holds it's a rabbinic problem. Rashi holds this, that the produce all has to be in front of you, is only rabbinic. Biblically, it doesn't matter if it's here, it's on the other side of the world. Tosfos disagrees. Tosfos holds no, even biblically, this has to be in front of you. So Rebbe, so back to the story of the figs. Well, they were,
Isn't here a question of time?
In our story, by the figs.
By your example.
But it's no longer. But now it's not.
But it left. So now you can't. The point here is you can't retroactively.
Over here, retroactive won't help. You have to deal with the here and now. And right now, the here and now is that the Am Haaretz has the 100 figs you gave him, and he's on his trip somewhere, and he's about to eat it. Right? He's going home tonight. He's making a fig. Fig jam, fig pudding. He's having guests. He's making a big fig marmalade, and you're in a jam. So the question is, can you, b'di'evet, plan B, take a couple figs, what you have here, I'll take 2 to be the truma and 10 to be the meiser. Really, you're not supposed to, but desperate times call for desperate measures. So Rebbe has a debate with his father. The father, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, says, don't do it. Don't do it. Rebbe says, do it. Now, both of them agree that what you're going to do is not as bad as what the Am Haaretz is going to do. According to Rashi, for sure, according to Rashi, what you're doing is only rabbinic issue. Taking the 2 figs from the 100 figs which are across country is only rabbinic, and you're saving the guy from eating tevel. But even according to Tosfos, that what you're doing is biblical, even in the world of biblical, there's different levels. Even according to Tosfos, that you're doing a biblical problem, you're still better off in the Am Haaretz, because when he eats that tevel, it's a much bigger crime. The proof is, eating tevel carries misa b'dei shemayim, death in the hands of heaven. So even within the biblical, there's different levels. So actually, the Rashba writes that in a letter. I have a letter of the Rashba here. This is a different letter of the Rashba where he says that even according to Tosfos, that taking 2 figs here for the 100 figs elsewhere is a biblical problem. It's not as bad as the biblical issue that Am Haaretz is going to violate if he eats that figs without the tithes taken. But so Rebbe's father said doesn't matter.
What's the alternative?
Rebbe's father says you can't do anything. What do you do? Nebuch.
Okay, so maybe though.
No, there's no alternative. You are.
Off. No, but shalei b'fonav. It's an isser, or maybe it's not working.
The Chachams, because it does work. No, it does work. No, it does work. If you take the 2 from here and the others are far away,
right,
it will work. It will work. No, it'll work for the fruits. But it's a violation, either of biblical proportion according to Tosfos or rabbinic according to Rashi. It will work, and therefore you will violate. Right, you're saying just let it not work. No, it's not going to work. Why are you doing it? It's going to work. It's going to work. Even according to Tosfos, it's a biblical problem. It's still going to work.
You've taken off the tevel.
Yeah.
What if
you've done it in an improper way.
Right. So it's a violation. Right.
You take off the 2 figs, and you immediately send someone to try to catch him, or you ride after him to try to prevent him from.
According to Rebbe's father, Rabban Shimon Gamliel, you can't take off the 2 figs because if you take off those 2 figs, it'll work, and it's a problem. According to Rashi, it's rabbinic. According to Tosfos, it's biblical. Now that's Rebbe's father, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. According to Rebbe himself, who the halacha follows, you do it. The halacha is you do it. But because we follow the son, not the father, we follow Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the redactor of the Mishnayos, and he says you do it. Which means you do a smaller sin to save somebody else. And that's Taisus' problem. I didn't get it. In Erevin, we paskin like Rebbe that you do tell the Talmud Chacham to violate the smaller sin to save the other guy from a bigger catastrophe. And yet in the Gemara and Shabbos with the dough in the oven, we say you shouldn't do it. Right? That's the contradiction. That's where the whole discussion really begins. It seems to be an open contradiction of two Gemaras.
I find it interesting that it's also, but it works.
There's a major discussion in the beginning of Masechta Tumura between Rava and Abaya, one of the very famous arguments they had. If the Eibishter says don't do something and you do it, is it effective?
Lulav, Aganav, you know.
Right,
Aganav,
mitzvah haba ba'avera. But let's say, the Eibishter says you can't, loisis chasen bum. You can't have...
Korban Pesach, if you eat it,
or taking truma. You can't take truma. From 1 year to the next. The certain cases we said you can't take truma from this on that. If you do it, does it work? The Gemara gives many, many examples. You can't steal, but on the other hand, if you do steal and you change the item, you acquire the item. But God said, don't steal, so how could your action have an effect? And the Gemara gives many, many such examples, and it's a famous debate, Abai and Rava.
This is more like you stole. When you got home, you realized that you stole.
Yes.
Because you didn't steal, you inadvertently took something from a store. When you got home, you realized it.
Yes.
And you go back and pay for it.
Yes.
That's what this is more akin to, don't you think?
Because
you didn't realize it when you gave it to him, and then as soon as you realize it, you're trying to correct it by putting two aside.
Yeah. But the question, okay. So let's look at Taisus in number 2. V'ha'adam, we say in Erevin, Rebbe Savar in the third line of number 2. Rebbe holds Nicholei lechaver. It's better for the Talmud Chacham. The lev he should do is Surah Kalila, a lighter prohibition. V'loi lev amaretz is Surah Rabba, so the amaretz should not violate a greater prohibition. We paskin like Rebbe, not Rebbe's father. And Rebbe says, blanket statement, always better to do a smaller crime to save someone from a bigger crime. And in Masechta Shabbos, by the dough in the oven, we say, no, you can't take out the dough, even though taking the bread from the oven is only an act of craftsmanship, and the Chachamim, it's like the smallest rabbinic violation of Shabbos, and the other guy's about to break Shabbos if he leaves the bread in, and there we say you can't do it. So how do you explain that? So this is where it all begins. So Taisus says, Hassam, there is different. Do you know why? Because by the case of the figs, the Talmud Chacham bears responsibility. He told the Amoris to fill up the basket of figs. The Talmud Chacham forgot to tell him that I didn't take off Truma and Meiser, or the Talmud Chacham forgot to take it off before. He set up the guy for disaster. But by the bread in the oven, what's in my business that he forgot his Shabbos and put the dough in? That's the first answer, pretty simple. It says Tosfos, Hasam kadei shelo yochel Amoris tevel al yodai. The guy shouldn't need to tevel through me. Because I told him, Male loch kalkala shaltein, and fill up your basket of figs, mitanas from my figs. Aval hacha, but by the Shabbos case, shaloi naaseh ho iser al yodoi, that guy stuck the dough in the oven. I never told him to do. I have nothing to do with the story. So here, ein oimim loy, we will not tell me chatei that I should sin. Afilu iser kal, even a small sin, shaloi yavide chavere, that my friend shouldn't come lidei iser chomer, to a serious sin. That's the first answer. Go on.
The bread, if you take it in during Shabbat, is it fasul or tarek?
Yeah, we don't need it on Shabbos. After Shabbos.
Same thing with the fig too. If it's the fig.
No, the fig's not about Shabbos.
No, but they took the figs and
but the Am Haaretz thinks the figs are perfectly kosher.
Okay.
He thinks he's going to eat it, thinking they're perfectly fine. Fine. That's the first answer. You should know many Rishonim take that answer. So according to the first answer, it's very simple. You only sin to save somebody else if you're responsible. But if you have nothing to do with that person's story, then you don't do a small sin to save them. Okay? It seems pretty clear, but we're going to see that there's a number of other angles over here. Continues Taiz, V'omer Riva, says the Riva. The Riva was of the first Baalei HaTosfos. He was a student of Rashi yet, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Osher, and he had a yeshiva in Germany. When he passed away, many of his students went from Germany to France to learn by Rabbeinu Tam, Rashi's grandson. So the Riva was even earlier. Now the Riva says like this: Dafilu l'madbik atzboi ein lifshoit misham. What if you were the one that stuck the bread in the oven, like you mentioned? You want to save yourself. You put the bread in, forgetting that it's Shabbos, right? You bake bread every morning. You put it in, and you remember 2 minutes later, and you're like, wait a second. Let me take it out before I end up breaking Shabbos. But the act you want to do is the act of craftsmanship called Radias Hapas, removing the bread. It's a rabbinic problem. But you want to save yourself from a much bigger issue. So says the Riva, the Gemara in Erevin won't even help us for this case. Ein lifshoit misham. The Gemara in Erevin, where Rebbe says you could do it to help your friend, you can't learn from there that on Shabbos you could help yourself. Why? Ein lifshoit misham lahat. You can't prove from there to be matter for a simple reason. Dahasam adayin lo nasa ho'iser. In the case in Erevin, the Amoritz has not yet eaten the figs, right? He's making marmalade tonight. So nothing's happened yet. So if you're going to take the 2 figs here to be the trum, etc., right? You're fixing, you want to fix the story before anything goes wrong. Better do something small. So your friend doesn't do something big, al yoda through you. But here on Shabbos, you already did the crime. It's interesting. When it comes to Shabbos, when it comes to baking or cooking on Shabbos, you take a pot of vegetables, soup, you put it on the fire, right? It's going to take a half hour till it reaches the minimum amount of cooking. But when do you violate Shabbos? When it ends up cooking, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. When you put it on the fire, you did your action, nothing happened. The moment you put it on the fire, nothing happened. It takes time till it reaches the minimum amount of cooking. When it does, you're not doing anything. So there's a very interesting shaila how you look at the malach of cooking or baking. The Pri Megadim actually, in his Sefer Rosh Yosef on Masechta Shabbos, says that there's something called chatzi shir, right? If you have a half a kazayas of pig, you won't get lashes until you have the full amount, right? But even a little bit is biblically prohibited. We paskin like Rabbi Yochanan, who holds even a drop is biblically prohibited. You won't get the punishment until you have the full amount. The Pri Megadim holds putting the food on the fire is like chatzi shir. That's half of the amount of cooking. The other half is when it actually cooks. That's a very interesting look. Most people don't look. Most people look at it that the act is putting it on the fire, but the actual violation of Shabbos only happens later. But either way,
it doesn't mean anything when you put it. It doesn't count.
No, that's the action that Hashem's going to be.
So the moment
when you put it on, right, you have done the complete ma'isa. Now it's just a matter of time. When it ends up cooking, the Eibishter pins you, but pins you for what? Put it on the fire. Oh, so Taka, there's a big difference. Some hold if you put it on the fire right before Shabbos goes out. If you put it on the fire right before Shabbos goes out and it cooks after Shabbos, if on Shabbos itself you put it on at 2 p.m. and it cooks by 2:15, if the Eibishter pins you because you put it on at 2 o'clock because that was your action, so if you put it on at 8:50 and it cooks at 9 o'clock this Shabbos, so it only cooks after. If you put it on before Shabbos, it's fine because your action was done when it's okay.
It finishes on Shabbos.
Yeah, but Hashem pins you for the action. The Shaila is fakert. If you put it on right before the end of Shabbos and it cooks after Shabbos, Hashem should pin you for putting it on Shabbos.
Hashem shouldn't pin you for this.
They should never pin you. But it's a big. We'll have a shim. There's a minchas chinuch, a rashash. It's a very interesting discussion how we look at that. So some hold no. No, if you don't daven. No, the Pashtus wanted to say Minat Torah Shabbos is over. Drabanon Shabbos continues.
We're saying that we have a lacha for a synagogue and a lacha for a private home. It's two different things, right? Zachet Tzibur, when your own home, it's two different things.
Where do
synagogue, you can be marked of some separate things. There is a crowd and right?
a little different?
In
Yeah.
some cases.
Right. Some cases. Usually Zeh Oto Torah.
No, I can. I'm saying you can be more marked than that.
Yes, yeah. It was for Tichid Tzibur.
In a sense,
Let's
The act
yeah.
of doing a cholent, you put in before Shabbos, but the cooking
That's fine.
is
That's
during
fine. That's
Shabbos.
clear. That's good. Well, that way.
But then you take it out. When you take it out, you have to have 2 mittens.
Yes.
So how does
So
it
you don't burn your
compare-
hand.
Well,
You
how
don't
does
need
that
mittens,
compare
if you only
to-
don't
wait a
wanna
minute,
burn your
How
hands.
does it compare to removing the bread? I mean, that's also an act
okay. No, right. No. Good question.
thought
Taking
the
the
cholent
cholent out of the
should be
crock pot
partially done.
is
not out of the pot, out of the oven. Because
It's-
it used to
anyone
be
could do
oven.
it. Anyone
Used to
could
be
do it.
ovens. Crock
No,
pot
the-
is different.
when taking the bread that's cleaving to the side of the
Yes.
oven through the special tool is an act
It's
of
like
craftsmanship.
Mittens, but it's like mittens. You're putting your hands
No,
in mittens,
anyone
no?
could do mittens. No, it's more than
Alright.
mittens. No, it's a special.
Okay.
You have to know exactly the angle, the pressure, right? Because you want those breads to come out perfect. You don't want them to come out, half with chunks missing. It was a. Not everyone
Alright,
did it.
okay.
Only those that knew what they were doing. Okay.
What's the melacha for that?
No, it's just a rabbinic problem. It's not Shabbosdik. It's not
It was
Shabbosdik.
not part of the bread union, bread bakers union.
Okay, fine. And so let's go. So the Riva is just saying that over here, Aval Hacha, the action of the Isur Kvar Nas is an interesting thing. When you put the dough in the oven, the act of the prohibition has happened. Umamela Yigmar, it's just a matter of time till the bread bakes. So then Lo Yasa Filu Isur Kal B'Yadayim. The Riva is just saying, no, it's not too late.
Why?
Because you're only chai for baking if the bread gets baked. If you put the dough in the oven, and it's starting to bake, and then the fire goes out that doesn't bake, you're not chayiv. You need a combination of two things. You need the action to put it in the oven, and you need it to actually bake.
And you did the action.
No.
It was inadvertent.
The case over here is you put the dough in the oven on Shabbos. Shachachta shezeh Shabbos. Miyad ata zocher. Now you want to take it out. The problem is that back in the day, the bread was stuck to the side of the oven. Taking it out was a very special action. Chachma, ridiyat tapat. And ze asu midrabanon. אתה רוצה לעשות את זה, להציל את עצמך מאיסור דאורייתא של אפיית הפת. So the Riva is saying you can't prove anything from the Gemara and Eruvin, because when you're gonna do the small crime to save your friend, it's because right now nothing has happened yet. But here by the bread, the dough's already in the oven. Everything's already happened. You want to take it out to protect yourself from what? From a non-active malacha. Zelo domeh. Anyhow, but let's just say this is just it's a bit of a brackets. We continue. The point what we have so far is like this. The first answer of Taisus: when do you sin for the sake of your friend? If you're responsible. Frek Taisus, wait a second. Vim Taimar, wait a second. V'had Tanan, there's a Mishnah in Hashaleach. It's a Mishnah in Gittin. You buy a guy from the street and you make him into your Eved Kanani. Eved Kanani means you buy a guy, and it's not just that you buy him. He agrees to get a bris milah, and he goes to mikveh. He becomes a half a Jew. An Eved Kanani is not just an Eved from a guy. No, it's an Indian of halacha. He becomes a half a Jew. The Rambam writes, he's not a Jew, but he's not a guy. He's like in the middle. He's chayiv in the same mitzvahs as a woman. Can't break Shabbos, but he doesn't have to wear tefillin and tzitzis and say Shema, etc. Imagine you and your friend both bought an Eved. He's owned by both of you. One of you free half of him. What happens to an Eved Kanani when he goes free? Let's say you free your Eved Kanani completely. He becomes a full convert. If you have an Eved Kanani, while you own him as an Eved Kanani as a half a Jew. If you free him, he becomes a full Jew. And he goes to mikveh again, and he gets some blood taken, a hatafat dambrit. But let's say he's owned by two people, you and your friend, business partners. You own the Eved. One of you free your half. So now this Eved is half free, which means half of him is Jewish, a full convert. Half of him is still an Eved. The problem is, who's he going to marry? Right now he's stuck. He can't marry anyone. He can't marry a Jewish woman because half of him is an Eved, and a Jewish woman cannot marry an Eved Kanani. Maybe he'll marry a a shifcha knaanit, which means if you buy a non-Jewish woman, make her a maidservant. The problem is half of him is Jewish, and the half-Jewish part of him can't marry the shifcha knaanit. So he's stuck. So the Mishnah says like this: me, someone who's chetzia, eved, half is a slave, chetzia, but half is free. Koifenes rabbi, we force the master. Va'oisa oisa ben chayrin. We tell the remaining master, you have to free him. You have to free him. Why? For the sake of him be able to marry and have children. Hold, we're going to get to that in a moment. So Frek Toisus, wait a second, I have a shaila. Va'afal gav the Bahai Pirkin, that perek in Gittin, Amar Rav Yehuda says, Kol ha-mashachar avda. If you own an Eved Knani and you free him, Oiver ba'asei, de lo oilom behem ta'avoidu. It says in Parshas Bahar, if you own an Eved Knani, lo oilam forever behem ta'avoidu, you're not allowed to free them. It's a mitzvah saseh to hold on to them forever. So if you're going to force the master to free his half, in order that the servant should go have children, that means you're forcing the master to do a smaller sin for the servant to fulfill a bigger mitzvah. Wait a second. That means you're forcing someone to do a smaller crime, so someone else should gain. Now over there,
Why is it a smaller crime?
why is it a smaller crime? Okay, because first of all, okay. First of all, the Ritva holds that when Rav Yehuda says if you free your Eved Kanani, you're violating a mitzvah saseh, it's not literal. It's only a rabbinic issue. The Ritva holds it's all the Rabbanon. That the Ritva holds that when the Pasuk says in Chumash you should work with them forever, it doesn't mean that you're never allowed to free them. It's not what it meant. The Chachamim created the mitzvah and they linked it on the Pasuk. It's called an asmachta. They were soymechad, they rested on the Pasuk, but it's only rabbinic. Now, even those that hold it's doiraisa, even those that hold it's biblical, it's not as great as the mitzvah of Pru Revu. The mitzvah of having children is a more mighty mitzvah. If you have to weigh it up, it's a bigger mitzvah.
But it's the same things, because the only example that you give before, you do a small avera in order to prefer some to a big sin. Here,
Mitzvah is oto davar. Yeah.
Of a half year.
Don't you have?
Exactly, yeah.
Don't you have another problem here?
Which is
Because
what?
half of him is a complete Jew,
And half of him is not.
and
But the
when-
half
and
of him
you-
needs to have
But
kids.
wait a minute. But the half that's not the complete Jew, you're preventing him from doing the mitzvah of.
But
of
right,
marriage.
but right now, there were two business partners.
No, I understand.
No, I'm sorry. Well, we both bought this Eved, yeah?
Yes.
You freed your half.
Correct.
That's not my problem.
Yeah, but wait.
If I hold on to my Eved, I'm just holding on to my monetary rights. All of a sudden, the Chacham say, no, I have to free him, which is really a crime. La'olam bem tavoda, hold on to them, in order for the Eved to gain. This is not my responsibility. We said in the beginning of
It became your
Tosfos.
responsibility when you bought him to begin with, and you allowed him to become a
No,
Chetzi
he
Jew.
won't. He wasn't chetzi. No. When we
You
both
allowed
bought him,
him to become a Chetzi Jew,
no, but that's
so you
fine.
should
That's fine. No.
anticipate.
Okay. When we bought him together, the plan
Yeah.
was he's going to be a regular Eved, and he could marry a shifcha.
So,
he
but
could marry
when-
the girl
but when
that.
he had the bris and he went to that, didn't you agree
That's
with
fine.
your partner?
That what?
If you agreed with your
Yeah,
partner,
no.
that means
No.
you see where I'm going with
No,
this.
I don't see because
Okay.
no. Let me please explain. We went to the marketplace together, right?
We bought an Evid.
And we also bought a girl, a shifcha, let's say, or we already own 100 people together. When we bought that Eved and he goes to mikveh and he has his
I
bris,
hope that black people. do
we
it and
hold
find
on.
out.
The Torah doesn't encourage slavery. The Torah gives rules that if you're in a place where there's slavery, this is how you go about doing it. The Torah is not telling you whether slavery is good or not. It's giving you
Rules.
guidelines of if you. When we bought the Eved and he had the bris milah and he went to mikveh, we have 50 women the Eved could marry. He can marry all the shifchas, all the women that are in the same category as him. When we bought the Goyish woman, she does the same thing. She goes to mikveh, and she also becomes like a half a Jew. The problem is over here, when you freed your half, now the guy's in trouble because half of our Eved is fully a convert, and half of him is still an Eved. The Eved itself is half a Jew. Let's not confuse this. Half of him is fully free. The other half is an Eved.
You open
And an
the-
Eved
for
itself
them
is like a
to marry,
quasi-Jew.
they have a baby, they have
But he
a-
can't marry anybody.
But his
No, but you
partner-
open by you sending your other half and release him, you give him opportunity to be a complete.
Yeah, but why do I have to do it? It's a sin.
No, he did that already, your partner.
Yeah, but why should I do my half?
Because now the greater mitzvah is to prove who.
So what do you see from here?
No.
No, but Zohar Kasha.
That's it.
No, but that's why we have a kasha. Because beforehand, Taisa says the only time you sin for your friend is if you're responsible. But in the Shabbos case by the dough, we say, since it's not my fault that he stuck the dough in the oven, I can't save him.
Well, you get
It's
into
only if it's my fault. Here it's not my
without your
fault.
will.
Right.
Because your partner sell his half, you get into this situation. It's your fault
okay,
already.
well,
Without you.
You're saying because I took him as a partner. Because I took him as a
He
partner.
was over.
That doesn't matter.
Partner was over.
Yeah, he was
wasn't
over.
allowed to.
Yeah, he
Now
was
I have to
exactly.
do it?
Yeah. When he freed his half, he wasn't allowed to, and now it's my problem. So this is Taisa's cut. So what's his answer?
Wait,
Hold on.
But the freeing was kosher. The fact that
It's
the
effective.
freed
No, it's
half
effective.
was
It's
kosher.
effective. You can't do it, but
Okay,
it's effective.
So once it's effective, you're stuck because you need to do.
I'm
it.
not stuck. The Evid's stuck.
Not true. He could
No,
also
the
find a
evidence is
similar
not stuck.
girl.
You're responsible.
Not
so
really
you're
stuck either.
No, he can't be with a similar girl.
Right.
Because if it's with a similar girl,
That's it.
yeah, the half which when
Then
they're
you
going to be
have a quarter-
intimate,
a quarter
you
child,
can't
a
split
half
her.
child and a quarter child.
Half, every fiber of his being is half a convert,
But
half
she's also-
Evid. Okay, right, but every
They're the
fiber of
same.
being no. But when they're going to be intimate, you hear the half free part of him is interacting also with the half of the shifcha part of her, right? That's just the way it works. Anyhow, so let's see what Taisa's answer is. So Taisa says shiny period of Arivia, it's different. The mitzvah rabba because a big mitzvah. So Taisa says like this. If the mitzvah you want to get your friend to do is a huge mitzvah, then all bets are off. Then it doesn't have to be your responsibility. It's like a new answer. So Piri Virivia, Pruruvu is not just better than freeing your slave, it's a mitzvah rabbah. It's a whole different category.
What's the gather of a mitzvah?
Says Taisus, how does he know this? What's his proof, right? Kedemeshani Hosam, he gets it from somewhere else. But Rabbi Eliezer, Shenichnes, Lebeis HaMedrash, V'lei Matzah Sham Yud, the story in Gemara, it's in Gittin and in Brachas. Rabbi Eliezer walked into Shul, and there were only 8 people besides him. 9 people, they need a minyan. So Rabbi Eliezer needs to make a minyan. So he took his Evet, and he freed his Evet to make a minyan.
Wow.
And the Gemara wants to know, why did he do that? Everybody asks, why didn't he make a goylem, right? The Chacham Tzvi, yesh lo she'ela, if the goylem, if a tzaddik creates a goylem, then he should be considered the chayis, the energy of the tzaddik, should be Jewish, at least to the degree that he should be part of the minyan. So everybody asks on the Chacham, the big people. The Chidah quotes this Shaila from Gedolei Asfardim, from big Mefarshim.
On the
that
spot, you should make a girl. It takes some time.
No,
So
the Chidah discusses, first of all, if it might have been Shabbos. Why did he need the minyan? The Rosh has a big discussion. What was the minyan for? Was the minyan just for a Kaddish or a Baruch Hu? Or maybe it was Shabbos before Purim, where there's a mitzvah min HaTorah, according to some, to read Parshas Zocher. It could be. It's a big difference. It's a big difference because Rabbi Eliezer violated the mitzvah saseh of freeing your slave in order to have a minyan. What gave him the right? So the Chidah brings from the Gedolei Asfardim that if you could use a golem for a minyan, why didn't Rabbi Eliezer make a golem? So the Yidden went through Geirus on Shabbos first time around. Taka.
So maybe a minyan
So-
mitzvah rabba.
So by the golem, so Taka, the Chidah says, listen, making a golem is not a one moment thing. It takes time. In addition, you only make a golem if it's a real necessity. Here, it's not a necessity. He could just free his slave.
But you say you have to make his done and all this. How you make his on Shabbos?
And if it was Shabbos. Now, Rashi holds the story. Rashi in the Gemara says it was just a case of like Ma'ariv, just a case of Baruch Hu. You understand? So much so, Rabbi Eliezer wasn't going to miss on one Baruch Hu or one Kaddish. He freed his slave, and that was it. Lost his. Rabbi Eliezer was a very wealthy guy, but still he freed. He lost his Evet just for one. Anyhow, but upon him.
But that means a mitzvah of minyan is bigger than a mitzvah.
So let's see. So what's Taka? So says Taisus, V'shikras avda, he freed his slave, lashlim aliyah, to make 10 people. How could Rebbe Lezer violate freeing a slave just to have a minion? And what does the Gemara? The Gemara asks this. The Gemara asks about that child. Says the Gemara, mitzvah de rabim shiny. It's not just a mitzvah; it's a mitzvah of the public. So what do you see from the Gemara? You're allowed to do a smaller crime for the mitzvah of the rabbim. If it's a mitzvah of the public, it warrants. It's fine. Says Tosfos, from there, Tosfos wants to extrapolate. If it's a mitzvah rabbah, if it's a great mitzvah, like having kids, the same thing. So far we know like this. You're allowed to do a crime if you're one person, if it's to save many, rabbim, or you're allowed to do a crime to help someone do a mitzvah rabbah, a big mitzvah, a bit like puravu, or if it's your responsibility, like the case of the figs. But in the case of Shabbos with the dough, your friend forgot his Shabbos, he put it in the oven. It's not my responsibility. He forgot. It's not helping the public. But what about mitzvah rabbah?
Yeah.
Why is helping my friend not break Shabbos should be just as good as Pur Revu? Isn't Shabbos the greatest of the mitzvahs, one of the greatest mitzvahs? So why wouldn't Tosfos' second answer affect the case of Shabbos? So many Mefarshim ask, like, what's going on?
Ask the question again, please.
We said that you're allowed to do a small chet to help your friend do a mitzvah rabbah, like Pur Revu,
Yeah, okay.
and to save him from Chilul Shabbos,
Yeah,
Elo
right.
mitzvah rabbah? By the dough on
right.
Shabbos, yeah. Shabbos it's mamash a huge mitzvah.
It's huge aver, it's called.
It's huge avera, right? Okay, so it could be that the answer of mitzvah rabbah is only by mitzvah saseh. There's a big difference. I don't know if we ever had a shir discussing the differences, which is greater, mitzvah saseh or aloy saseh. Is it a bigger deal not to violate Hashem's will or to do the mitzvahs of Hashem? There's a well-known Ramban in Parshas Yisro. The Ramban says that not doing a loy saseh is because you're scared of Hashem. Doing a mitzvah saseh is because you love Hashem. Gadol ha'osim ma'ava yosim and ha'osim ma'yira. The Gemara in Saita says serving Hashem out of love is much greater. So therefore an aseh is greater. And the Ramban says that's why if the two ever clash, aseh doicha loy saseh, right? If somebody is born with a tsaras on his on the place you have to do bris milah, cutting tsaras is generally a loy saseh. But the mitzvah of milah pushes away. The Ramban says why? Because aseh is love. A loy saseh is fear. Love is greater. So it could be that according to Tosfos, this answer of mitzvah rabbah might only be about mitzvah saseh, not about breaking Shabbos. But either way, it's an issue that people ask. And it still has to be analyzed. But continues Tosfos, we're not done yet. Va'oid yesh loimer, Tosfos gives another answer. Okay, listen, we'll be all right. We'll see. You'll see the ramifications of all these things. Another new answer, a whole new answer. It all boils down to the following. Really, you always do a small sin to help your friend, unless your friend was negligent, unless he was posheya. The dafke hecha de pasha, if your friend was negligent, kamar, that's when we say, v'chi oimrim loy la'adam, will tell you to sin for your friend. In the case of Shabbos, your friend forgot it was Shabbos. What do you mean he forgot? Well, because he begs bread every day. Why did he forget today? Forgetting doesn't justify. It's a pshia. It's negligent. But in the case of the figs, when I told the Amoritz to fill up his basket of figs, he didn't do anything wrong. He heard the rabbi say, take it, he took it. Oh, so if it boils down to that, now you understand the other cases. If we have this Eved who's half owned by me and half free, you know why I free him so he can get married? Because the Eved didn't do anything wrong. According to this answer, it boils down to something else completely. Did the other guy do something wrong or not? Let's just continue. Tosfos va'asi shaper, it comes well another Gemara. Ha darminam bereish tamid nishchat. So Gemara in Pesachim that there's generally a rule on the Mizbeach. No carbon should be brought after the afternoon tamid. You bring the tamid in the morning, the daily offering in the morning. You bring one in the afternoon. Everything else happens in between the two. But let's say you have a guy Erev Pesach who was tameh before, and in order to come out of his tumah, he needs to bring certain karbonos. But he didn't get around to doing it, and all of a sudden it's Erev Pesach. It's 5 p.m. He wants to eat the carbon Pesach that night, right? When there's a Pesach, or he wants to eat the carbon Pesach that night. The problem is the Kohanim already brought the afternoon tamid, the afternoon daily offering. if they're going to bring his personal carbon to purify him, they're going to be violating a biblical command that everything needs to be between the two Tmidim. But they want to do it for his benefit so he could eat from the carbon Pesach that night. Do they do it or not? Yes. The Kohanim are supposed to violate bringing something after the afternoon Tamid in order that this individual should be able to bring the carbon Pesach.
They couldn't use Pesach Sheni?
Well,
Because
it's
he
not.
was Tamid, so-
No, but it's there's still time. It's not yet. So says the asi. It comes the ase of Pesach sheyesh by chorus. Since the mitzvah ase of bringing the carbon carries chorus, it's a much more severe. Doch it pushes away ase the hashlama. The mitzvah ase of hashlama. Hashlama means that everything should be brought between the two tmidim. The kohanim ba'aseh dashlama, the kohanim will violate. We just jump to the next line on the mitzvah aseh of hashlama, which means nothing should be after the afternoon tamid, and they're going to violate that. Umakrivin, they're going to bring the mechusar kippurim for this guy who's lacking his atonement, kaparas, his atonement, which is some carbon, in order that he should bring his carbon pesach. Now, why? Why are they allowed to do that? It's not the kohanim's problem. So the first answer of Taisus won't help us there. It must be like the last thing Taisus says. It all boils down to, was the other guy negligent or not? And here he's not considered negligent. He only woke up. Why didn't he bring his karbonis a week ago? So some taina that forgetting is not considered negligent. Putting the dough in the oven of Shabbos is more than just forgetting. It's an act of shoygig. You did an act inadvertently. It's more serious than stam forgetting to bring your carbon. Doing an act b'shoigig is more of a problem than just forgetting that to bring your carbon. Anyhow, says to bring another pevachem perek basar de erev in another gemara. It's beautiful. Kohen shenimsa bo yabelis. A kohen who has a yabelis is he has a wart, a type of mum, and it's Shabbos. Chaveiroi chois chaloi b'shinav. His friend can bite it off. Afal gavda havishvus. Now, biting off warts on Shabbos, rabbinically, you're not allowed to do that. But one kohen can do it for his friend to be able to work in the Beis HaMikdash. Why? The kohen that's biting is violating a rabbinic shvus, a rabbinic prohibition. So his friend can do the service in the Beis HaMikdash. Why is he allowed to? So it must be like the last answer, because the other guy wasn't. The other answer, Taisus, won't help you. It's not for the public. Is it a mitzvah rabbah? I don't know, maybe service, maybe it is. The first answer of Taisus is that won't help you because here it's not the first kohen's problem. But the last answer would. That Taisus then gets to the last case. V'gabi chetz yeshivcha. There's one last case.
In the Beis HaMikdash, there's ashvus in the Beis HaMikdash.
Right. There's also shy. It might be considered a public mitzvah. A mitzvah that many people are doing might be considered a mitzvah derabim. So all right, but that's anybody continues Taisus. One last case. Gabi chetzia shivcha chetzia bas chayrin. Imagine we bought together a woman from the marketplace, okay? A goyisha woman, and then she goes to mikveh. She becomes our shivcha knainis, a maid servant she's chayiv in mitzvahs like a regular woman, and she's a quasi-Jew. And then you freed your half. This time it's a woman, though. Do I have to free my half so she could have kids? Women don't have a mitzvah to have kids. But the story was like this. Shanagu ba minig hefker. The story was, since this woman couldn't marry anyone, she couldn't marry a regular Jewish man because half of her is a shivcha. She couldn't marry an eved because half of her is Jewish. So what was she doing? She was playing games all day. There was hefker going on, So the kafu es rabba, they forced the master in Masechta Gittin, mishum shahoisa mechazeres umamtzia atzma leznus, because she was walking around knocking on people's doors for promiscuity reasons. So they forced me, let's say, to free her. Why am I freeing her? So all the men in town shouldn't do averis with her. I'm going to do a sin so the people in town should gain. Why?
So
Taisus gives two answers. First of all, doimin la'anusin. All those people in town, they're not considered negligent. Since she's knocking on their door, they're like anusim. It's like, what are they supposed to do? She's knocking on their door.
Don't open.
So therefore, What do you expect? It's like the mashal of the Zoya, that the Abish, imagine a father takes his son, he puts him in front of the house of harlots. What's the kid supposed to do? The Zoya says that the Abish gives us a Yetzirah. What does he expect is going to happen? He gave the Eden gold. What does he expect is going to happen? They're going to make a golden calf. That's what's going to happen. So Tosfos says a fascinating thing. That when you free her, you're helping all those people because they're not negligent. It's not my problem, so the first answer won't help us, but the last answer would. They're considered free of guilt because it's not their fault. Tosfos, another answer to mitzvah derabim. It's for the public. Okay, so this is Tosfos, fascinating. So, we're going to go quick. So, if you look throughout Shas, you'll find 5 or 6 different Tosfos and all have similar discussion. And they're all on the different Gemaras, which are all part of this puzzle. But here Tosfos gives us quite a couple different answers of when we say yeah, when we say no. So here's the story though. In number 1, there was a story that came to the Rashba. The Rashba is the big Rav in Barcelona. He passes away in the early 1300s. Look at number 1. Oid Nishal, the Rashba was asked, a very sad story. There was a woman who was taken out of her house on Shabbos. Bechezka, she was forced out of her home through Yisrael Meshumad. There was a Jew who became an apostate, and he took a girl out of the home.
Kidnap?
And to take her to the monastery, to convert her. Loitzia Miklal Yisrael, take the girl out of the house, take her far away to some, I think it was the Muslims, and that she'll grow up as in the spirit of Islam.
This is during Inquisition.
This is in the end of the 1200s. Imurta l'shalech ba'adaviyah, should we tell the father, he's in another city on Shabbos, and he'll travel and do whatever he can to save her. Afilu chutz l'shalosh parsois, and the father will travel more than 3 parsa. 3 parsa is about 12 kilometers. What's the thing about 12 kilometers? When it comes to walking too far on Shabbos, it's called Tchum Shabbos. According to most Rishonim, Tchum Shabbos is always rabbinic, no matter how far you travel. The Rambam holds no. 3 parsa, which is about 12 kilometers, is biblical. That's biblical according to the Rambam. So says the Rashba, Laman Desvid, the one that holds the Tchum of the 3 parsas, Doiraisa, would we allow the father to travel, to break Shabbos biblically to save his daughter? Afilu lahavi biyadei choisim mitzad hamalchus, and to get some letters signed from the Malchus to be able to get his daughter back. Mi have a kasofik nefashis, is him running after his daughter a case of saving someone's life, ulahakon, therefore to allow or loy or not.
What's the question? To send in the message, or
and then the father both. Yeah, the father allowed to break Shabbos to save his daughter. Is the father allowed to, so they're not going to hurt her. They're going to take good care of her. They're taking her to a beautiful monastery. She's going to have a first class.
But does he know that? He doesn't.
Yeah,
know
no, that's
that
the case. No.
The father doesn't know. All he knows is that she got kidnapped.
No, so the case is no. The case is we know. No, they know who kidnapped her, and therefore they know what the
Well, to Suffolk Nefashis.
Right. Just look. Listen. The Rashba. We'll see a number of opinions here. The Heishiv. The Rashba says Hadover Tzarech Talmud. That first of all, it's not pashut. I got to think about it. Nonetheless, Kach Daiti Noita. I do believe that he can't. This is the Rashba. We'll see others argue. Sha'asr, I think it's forbidden. You don't push off Shabbos to save somebody else from doing an Avera. We don't tell a person, go sin, so your friend should gain. That even a small sin, loy shar, is not allowed to save your friend from a bigger sin. Like it's clear in the first parak of Shabbos, in the question of hidbik paspa, if you put bread in the oven, hitiru loyler doisa, did they allow you to take it out before you come to break into chiyav chatas, to breaking Shabbos or not? V'chule. And Amar Rav Sheshes, the Gemara there said, la'olam b'shoigi, we're talking about your friend did it by mistake, ulaman hitiru la'acher, and who's allowed to take it out? The other guy, which is you. And the Gemara said, what? Do we tell a person, hey, get up and sin for your friend to gain? Can't do it. Says the Rashba, you can't do it. I, the Gemara in Erevin, Vahi the Nichalei Lemev Chaver Isur Zuta. I, the Gemara in Erevin, better that the Talmid Chacham should do a small crime in order that his friend shouldn't do a bigger crime. Al Yodei Karmich, because that's when you're responsible.
But isn't this different? This is Isur Deiraisa. They're traveling. It's on a small.
Yeah, no, but you're saving your daughter from ganz Yiddishkeit. Ganz Yiddishkeit. Ganz
You're
Yiddishkeit.
saving your.
Yeah, but it's
You're doing a
really
whopping
Isur
sin one time, one Shabbos, so she should have
But all
many
the other cases
Shabbosim.
are small.
No, but here it's also small
Drabanan.
because you're saving her from all of Judaism for 613 mitzvahs. It's 613.
Correct.
She לא פשעה.
So what's the Rashba saying? Which answer of Taisus is the Rashba following? The first one. He says clearly at the end, when do we say you should do something small for someone else to gain? Al yod, if you're responsible, like the case of the figs, only then. Whenever you're not responsible, like the father and the daughter, you can't do it. Even though your daughter's going to gain
The
more.
father is responsible.
What? He doesn't.
The
It's not
father
there.
is responsible because if the father wasn't home,
There's
if
other
he would
answers
have
for
been home,
Pesach.
then she wouldn't have been kidnapped.
Rabbi, this
No, no,
is
yeah.
Father was in shul.
That-
Father was in
He
shul.
was away on business.
no, but I'm saying
She's not
you
pshia.
can't.
She's not.
Harashba cholek aleim.
Father has a responsibility. Over
Harashba
the
sever
child.
hat kol
And also
tolui b'tidus harishon.
He has the obligation to
The
save
whole
her.
the mitzvah rabbah.
So the shaila is who said the Rashba believes in mitzvah rabbah? How did Tosfos prove mitzvah rabbah from the case of the half and eved and things like that? There's other answers. The Ramban yesh tirutz acher legamri. The Ramban, who's the Rashba's teacher, holds the prohibition of freeing a slave is only if you fully own him. If he's already half freed, there is no prohibition to free him. The Ramban holds Tosfos' whole question about when the half a eved doesn't begin. Zalom atchila doesn't begin because the prohibition of freeing a slave is only when you fully own him.
What about mitzvah derabim? She's gonna have a lot of kids, and those kids are not gonna know they're Jewish.
No, they can't. No, it's not mitzvah rabbah. So b'chal, the whole mitzvah rabbah, according to the Ram, the Tosfos created that based on a question. According to the Ramban, en shum she'ela, and therefore, the Rashba taka lo saver kamotam. The Rashba holds you go after the first answer, and therefore the father, he's not responsible. He can't break Shabbos, even though his daughter will gain much more. He can't go. It's hard. It's very hard, and that's why the
Shabbos
Rashba.
seems to me that it's about sending the person to the father.
Well,
this is
that's
like
what it seems like.
the also the
No, because no. He says.
Lahavi Abiyada is the shliach, not the father.
Yeah, but then what's but it also all right. But the way it's understood is for the father as well. Now look at number
There's
3.
another
Hold on.
problem. There's another
Let's
problem.
yeah.
If the father doesn't go, you're
Yeah.
encouraging the people to go and kidnap every Jewish girl.
No, the father will go just after Shabbos.
No, after Shabbos is too late.
Well,
She's
well, hope-
violated.
Hopefully it's not too late. Hopefully there's still.
The only problem will be something in Fashion, like, because then you could say that either he should wait until after Shabbos or he should do right now.
if it's a suffix nefashis, you mamish go. The Rashba's answer seems to be we're not talking about they're going to take good care of her.
You're talking about in the 1200s. In the 1200s, after Shabbos, you get killed on the road.
Right,
mean,
to wait
you
till
know,
Sunday
I'm
morning.
serious. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
Sunday
not,
morning. Yeah,
Interesting as
you're right. The way the Raj was saying is Taka. You might lose your one and only chance,
Not bad, let's,
but you can't break shot. Now we're going to see. Wait. Rabbi Yosef Cairo disagrees in number 3. In number 3 is Rabbi Yosef Cairo. He disagrees. In fact, let's skip
Does he
the
call
first.
them names?
Let's skip the first 5 lines of number 3 because he's just quoting Tosfos. Look, it's in the middle of the line. The word vahashta. Number 3, halfway into number 3. It's in the middle of the line, the word vahashta. So Rabbi Yosef Cairo like this. The Rashba bases himself on only one of Tosfos' answers. Tosfos has other answers. Let's look at the other one. Says Rabbi Yosef Cairo. Im l'tirutza de mitzvah rabbah. If you follow the answer that it depends on mitzvah rabbah, then if you're allowed to do a small sin for your friend to have kids, for sure you could break Shabbos for your daughter to be from. He says, Hadover Bor, it's clear, Ein l'chol mitzvah rabbah mila'atzila. Shaloi, they shouldn't be mafchit her until she's mishtam, until she converts. There's no greater mitzvah than that, to give someone Judaism. And therefore you should be able to break Shabbos. What about the tirits of the last tirits, the mechalek that Tosfos divides between partial, like between if you're negligent or not? Says Tosfos, says the Beis Yosef, so then over here it's okay too. Because the girl was hachanami loy pasha. The girl wasn't negligent. V'hilkach, and therefore l'chalal aleh as Shabbos l'fakech aleh shari. And therefore, since she wasn't negligent, if we go with the last answer of Tosfos, to break Shabbos to save her, it would be okay because she wasn't negligent. Mitzvah namiyika, not just you're allowed to, it's a mitzvah. More than that, ve'iloi boy, and if the father doesn't want to go, kafila will force him. Just like we find by the guy who's half an eved, that we forced the rabbi to free him, so he shouldn't be bottled from the mitzvah of pruruvu. We would force the father. And then he said, afilu l'chalol Shabbos and dvarim, even to be mechalol Shabbos on a biblical level, nira you're allowed to do it, because if you compare the fact that she shouldn't mishtamish, she shouldn't become a Muslim, and violate her whole life on Chilul Shabbos, it definitely makes sense, break Shabbos once. So the Beis Yosef says breaking Shabbos once is definitely smaller than her whole Judaism. And so what Rabbi Yosef Cairo is saying like this, yeah, if you go after Tosfos' first answer, then you'll reach the conclusion of the Rashba. Since it's not the father's fault, he can't do it. But if you go after the answer of mitzvah rabbah, or the last answer of if the other person's negligent, she's not negligent, and therefore you would be allowed. So Rabbi Yosef Cairo disagrees. And the halacha follows Rabbi Yosef Cairo. But here's the deal. What if the girl was negligent? Imagine you have today, God forbid. God forbid, somebody...
But did you know it at the time? That's the point.
Yeah, no, we know it at the time. Let's say someone, God forbid, knows somebody, their kid, or even if it's not your kid, you know somebody on their own volition is getting involved in a cult. They're involved in a cult. You know it on your own. And they started it. They reached out to the cult. Now you know that outside the cult has come with a van. They're going to take the person. Or do you get into your own car and you pursue them? So this is the shaila, a real practical question. So here's a problem. Because Rabbi Yosef Cairo says, answer A of Tosfos will lead you to the Rashba, but you can't break Shabbos because it's not your fault. But then we had a couple other answers. The answer of mitzvah rabbah would allow you, and the answer of them not being negligent would allow you. But what if the person is negligent? They reached out to the cult. It's still a mitzvah rabbah, but you don't have the last answer because the person was negligent. It seems from Rabbi Yosef Cairo that is not willing to allow that. It's only when they weren't negligent. Because he doesn't. Rabbi Yosef Cairo seems to limit it at the idea that it wasn't her fault.
So hold on. Hold on. How do you handle that? When the Mitnagdim
they might have broken Shabbos.
But wait a minute, they were more prominent.
Yeah, they would have broken Shabbos
when Hasidim started. So when they said that it's a cult,
they would break Shabbos. Maybe they would have broken Shabbos to save the guy. You should know.
Sure, it's happened.
You think?
So comes the Sefer Nachlas Shiva. Nachlas Shiva was written in the 1600s by Reb Moshe. He was a son of the Taz. He was a student of the Taz. His father's name was David Halevi, the same name as the Taz. But he was a student of the Taz. The Nachlas Shiva. The Nachlas Shiva has a famous tshuva that everyone quotes, and in it he says he wants to go even more liberal than Yosef Cairo. He says even if the person was negligent, you're allowed to break Shabbos to save them. Why? First of all, if you go after the answer of mitzvah rabbah, that answer will always work. Also, what about the fact we know there's a general, why do you break Shabbos to save someone's life? Better break Shabbos once, so this person should keep many Shabboses. Chalul one Shabbos, so that person should keep many Shabboses. According to that logic, it doesn't matter if the person was negligent or not, right? If someone was negligent and about to cause their own death, you still break Shabbos for them, right? So then, so too, if they were negligent going to the cult.
It's different though, because then meaning you're going to go save them, they'll go do it again.
Well, you hope no. Well, no. Well, the hope is you bring them back, and you hope that you'll be able to mashpia on them. You'll affect them.
You could say that they have a temporary, I'm going to use the word insanity, which is inappropriate. But let's say, like the person who follows a cult because somebody brainwashed them for the
right.
period.
You're right. There's hope.
So,
There's hope.
So
according to the Nachlas Shiva, it's okay. Two reasons. First of all, Tosfos' answer of mitzvah rabbah always works, but his real argument is that you save someone's life, break Shabbos once, so that person should keep many Shabboses. So to here, take your car, go after that van that's going to the cult, in order that kid or that person, doesn't matter their age, should be able to keep many Shabboses. So that's what the Nachlas Shiva says. So he has a third opinion on the matter. So comes Rabbi Yaakov Reisha, the Shvus Yankiv. Okay, we're almost finished. The Shvus Yankiv was one of the great Rabbanim about 350 years ago. Passed away in the early 1700s. And he writes that if the Nachlas Shiva is right, how come Rabbi Yosef Cairo and the Rashba didn't think about... Every kid knows that idea. Break Shabbos once to keep Shabbos many times. Anyone that goes in Atzala, right? It's like it's written on their cars. Everyone knows it. How come the Rashba with the Beis Yosef, they didn't bring it up in their discussion? Like, why they all forgot about this most fundamental idea? So he tines that you can't apply that idea. The idea of break Shabbos once so the person can keep many Shabboses is only if they're in physical danger, not spiritual danger. He says it's only by physical danger. That's the case that it was said.
Why?
The person's dying. That's the case that it was said by.
Physical danger,
Yeah,
if you
right.
don't save them once, you have no chance after that. They're gonna die.
The
But
spiritual
they
danger?
can go back to them and back to them and back to them. It's not really.
Okay, I hear. Okay,
Temporary
say it.
atzala, temporary
Okay,
atzala.
okay,
Spiritual.
Sticking up
okay.
for the basic.
Okay,
Sticking up for the basic.
okay.
Beis Yosef is
Svara Yeshara.
But
Okay.
you see many times people that go out on
And they
Friday
come
night
back.
and do
On-
Shabbos. If something happened, everybody help them.
On the
Why?
other
Because
hand-
they're life danger. But in spiritual, you go take back and forth like ping pong.
Okay. Yeah, but when people are taken to cults, they're often taken for a long time. But yeah, I hear. So Akaponis, Rabbi Yankov Reisher, and also the Chida, they disagree with the Nachlas Shiva. So they all seem to concur and agree with Rabbi Yosef Kar. It really depends if the person's negligent or not. But I will tell you just that there's a sefer called the El Yerabba, Rabbi Eliyahu Shapiro, one of the big Rabbanim, also passed away in the early 1700s. In fact, the Chassam Sofer says in the laws of Eirach Chaim, we always follow the El Yerabba. It's a very important commentary. The Chassam Sofer. So and the Alter Rebbe quotes a lot from the El Yerabba.
What's the Shapiro?
Eliyahu Shapiro. Shapiro was his name. And he says that he's not sure who's right, the Nachlas Shiva or Rabbi Yosef Karo. And therefore, if the person was negligent and they're going on their way, right? You can't get in your van because you're going to be desecrating Shabbos biblically. Right? And according to Rabbi Yosef Karo, you can't. You can't rely on the Nachlas Shiva to violate a biblical prohibition. But you could do a rabbinic prohibition. You can get a taxi. Paying money, you can do a rabbinic prohibition.
Got it right.
That's
Why?
Shia.
Yeah, because why? It's very, very simple svara. If it's rabbinic prohibition, it's a Rabbi Yosef Karo says you can't, the Nachlas Shiva says you can. It's a suffix on a Derabanan. So you would be able to follow the car to do anything rabbinically. And there are many ways to get out of it. Okay, driving your own car, there's no real way to make that rabbinic. It's going to be biblical. But if you get into a taxi or this or that, you can mamish.
Well, first of all, if we go back to their time, it was a horse and
Right.
carriage. When you drive
Right.
the carriage, you are actively working.
Right.
When you ride,
The question is about tchum. If you're going far, you're going to go out of the tchum.
Rama could be a
So here, like by tchum, according to most, tchum is always rabbinic. The Rambam holds it's deraisa, right?
Say you can-
But it could also be that the Nachlas Shiva is right, that you're allowed to break Shabbos. So it'll be an interesting way of working out that question. But let me just start. I'll just end. So where it ends off in the Mishnah Berurah quotes the El Yerabba. So lahalacha lamaisa. In this case, is like this: if the girl is taken, according to the Rashba, you could never go, even if it's not her fault. Rabbi Yosef Kara Paskin, if it's not her fault, you definitely can. You can break Shabbos. We forced you, and not just you. It's not just the father. Anybody. You break Shabbos. You all get in there. If they come and they snatch your door in the car, you get in your car and you go after them. According to Rabbi Yosef Kara, if she connected herself to that cult, you can't go. She's negligent. According to the Nachlas Shiva, you can. The Shvus Yankiv and the Chida, they don't like the Nachlas Shiva. They think Rabbi Yosef Kara is right. But the El Yerabba and the Mishnah Berurah, who's kind of the bottom line, he paskins like the El Yerabba that a rabbinic issue you can. Because when it comes to a rabbinic issue, we'll say, well, Rabbi Yosef Kara says, if she was negligent, Rabbi Yosef Kara says you can't save her, The Nachlas Shiva says you can, so to Safek on a Rabbanan you could do that. And that seems to be the halacha l'maisa on Shabbos. Obviously, yeah, the Alter Rebbe has a number of things about this. But he does, Alter Rebbe doesn't clearly speak about what to do if she was negligent in violating a Rabbanan.
Like in the details.
Right, in that specific El Yerabba detail. There was an interesting story that happened then with this about 150 years ago. There was a story, a little town over here. There was a woman who was about to go into labor. Her midwife was a Jewish woman in another town. There was a woman who was about to go into labor. A tragedische Frau gehalten beim Hobna Kind.
Jewish guy.
A Jewish girl, yeah. And her midwife was a Jewish woman who lived in another town, but there's a big forest between them. It was much more than
distance.
Tchum.
There was a
Yeah.
distance.
So here's the thing. Friday afternoon, someone from the town where the woman about to go into labor takes the 2 hour, an hour and a half ride to the other town,
Bring her back.
to tell that woman, you got to come help. By now it's already Friday night. So the midwife, she's allowed to break Shabbos because, if the woman who's giving labor, she needs that midwife.
But
She's
not
going to
the
comfort her.
transport, but not the one who's.
The problem is, so she's going to ride with a guy.
Right.
This Jewish woman, the midwife's a married woman. She's going to sit with a guy late at night, going through a 2 hour trip. Yichud. That's a big problem.
What if the guy brings his wife along?
Yeah, doesn't help.
Doesn't help. The shaila is, if the woman brings her husband, it'll help.
Yeah.
But he's not allowed. He's not doing anything.
This was the shaila. The shaila is, if he comes, the wife's allowed to go to help the other woman give.
Hatzalah.
Yeah. For her husband to come, he's going to be violating Tchum, but saving her from the Isser of Yichud. Which is worse? Tchum, according to most opinions, is only rabbinic. The Rambam holds if it's more than 12 mil is biblical. Most Rishonim hold Tchum is always rabbinic. Not just that. If you're more than 10 tfachim above the ground, the Gemara in Eruvin has a suffix if there's Tchum. Like which would be if you're on a boat, because on the water makes you more than 10 tfachim from the bottom of the ocean, or the Gemara discusses Eliyahu Hanavi flying. But it's even a wagon. If the wheels, if your body is more than 10 tfachim elevated from the ground, there's a question if there's tchum. So the question came to Rabbi Aryeh Leibish Bal Chover, the Shem Aryeh, and he says the husband should go. He and Reb Shloime Kluger from Brod, one of the big rabbanim at the time, they both tied the husband should go. Because he's violating tchum, most hold that's rabbinic, and because it's above 10 tfachim, there's a shaila if there's even tchum. And for her to have yichud with a goy is a much bigger issue. Now, how big is the issue with a goy? The Gemara says that, first of all, some hold yichud is always rabbinic. Many Rishonim hold yichud is always rabbinic, no matter who.
Some say deraita.
Some hold it's deraisa, but only between a Jewish man and a Jewish woman that intimacy would carry chorus. Even those that hold it's biblical is only if it's a carries chorus in between. But David HaMelech was geyser, ponui and a pnuya, stam a boy and a girl was David's rule. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, the Gemara says, they made the rule even a yid and a goy. Now, is that talking about a Jewish man with a goyish woman, or also a Jewish woman with a goyish man? It could be that was also only from Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. So it's also only rabbinic. So Tchum is rabbinic, Yichud is rabbinic. On the other hand, Yichud is with the goy is part of the general idea of relations with the goy.
So just to throw in
According to many, actual relations with the goy carries chorus. So it's part of a much more serious framework. Also, the tchum, you're above 10 tfachim, so you throw that into the mix and makes it lighter.
So what if the midwife, driver, was the eved, that chetzi yid, chetzi goy? Sorry, I had to throw that in.
So, some big rabbanim said that he should go. the Reb Mordechai Dov Horner Steipler. Reb Mordechai Dov Horner Steipler was actually a great-grandson of the Mittler Rebbe, because the Mittler Rebbe had a daughter who married Yankov Yisrael Cherkasser, was a big Polish Rebbe, the son of Motel Chernobyl. And this Yankov Yisrael Cherkasser, the Mittler Rebbe's daughter, had a daughter, Fege, and she had a son, Motel Horner Steipler, from the city of Horner Steipel. And he was a big Chassidish Rebbe and a big Rav. And he wrote a sefer, Eimek She'ela, and he was also involved in this Shaila. And he said, of course the husband can't go. Why should he do something wrong?
Cannot go.
Yeah, sure, he shouldn't. He shouldn't go. He shouldn't go. And it was a big discussion at the time. And all the Rabbonim got involved and they said, it really depends.
No, but the rabbi said he shouldn't go, and the midwife shouldn't go also. Or the midwife-
No, she has to go. She has to
He
go.
has to go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's breaking Shabbos, yeah. Yichud as well.
Why the rabbi said that it's
Because the other woman's going to die. The woman's in labor and needs help.
Said that the husband is not going to go with her. To pass by
Because-
rabbinical things.
Yeah. Ein oimim la'adam chatei kadesh yizke chavercha. Because if you go with the first answer of Tosfos, it boils down to if you did something wrong.
She's
Here's not the
posher.
husband's problem.
She's not posher.
That's the last answer of Tosfos. Not everyone agrees to that answer. I'm just saying how it came up. I'm saying how it came up. I'm saying how it came up.
To the women that have a baby, it's pikuach nefesh also.
No, so she should go. Shetelech.
There is another.
He telech. Ashela hi im abal gam yelech.
What do you mean? You go into an Uber car. It's not.
See, here's an
so
intro. Yeah,
Now, there is
right.
another.
Yeah.
But does
No,
he
we
ever
don't just allow. Right, we don't just allow. Stama zoy v'lo manichim.
But
A woman doesn't go into a car with a guy.
yeah, but you're talking about to go at Shabbos at night with such a way by themselves.
300
Not like
years-
today.
No, we
hundreds
don't.
of years ago.
Right.
You know,
We're not worried for
nobody's
sakana.
there, nobody's there.
No, we're not worried for sakana. We're worried for
No, for
aveda.
yichud,
For
for yichud.
aveda.
Yichud
So
doesn't know
I
the
have,
difference if it's half hour.
But she's
or hour.
allowed to.
But there is a
She's
difference.
allowed to do yichud to save the woman that's in labor. He
Does
muteres
he have a
lavod al
responsi-
yichud.
Does he have a responsibility to, however, find?
So,
the
are you going
right
to say when you
driver?
marry your wife, you take
No,
responsibility
Does
for your
he-
whole
Does he have? No. I mean, does he have any responsibility to find the right kind of driver where she'll be safe?
It's not about safe or not. It's
No,
about
I meant safe from
how could you ever be
inappropriateness.
certain?
You're not certain,
never be
but
certain.
does he have?
There's no telling.
So that's no.
Sometimes the
there's
person
no-
you think is the playboy
Well,
is the
we
most safe, and
understand.
sometimes
We
the person that seems the
understand.
safest
We
is the. You never know what goes on in
Yeah,
there.
with that.
Ein adam yedei ma belibo shel chaver. You have no idea.
Apotropos l'arayim now.
Exactly.
But the rabbi, it's very to
I'll
let
tell you
the
story.
wife go by herself for 2 hours ride with the goy at night, and not just the.
Each of the masmid was a big Chabad chassid.
And
So he was
especially
in.
he's not the rider,
in the-
as you said. It's easier. He's not the rider. He's just sitting in the carriage with his
Yeah, but
wife.
Yavod al Tchum. So each of the masmid was an old man, and he was staying in somebody's house, and all of a sudden he was actually sick. He was sick, and all of a sudden he realized the only person in the house was a very old woman. He jumped out the window. He jumped out. He fell down. He hurt himself, and people asked him, he's a kena, ata chole, you're sick, she's an old woman.
She's gonna touch
So
you.
he said, when the Yetzer Hara wants, the old woman's not so old and the sick person's not so
Not so
sick.
sick.
Exactly. Eina b'trufas la'rayis. Anyhow, okay, Yeshukayach.
Thank you.